Chapter 171, A rare commodity presides within. The beauty stood on one spot as Brave Surge pulled Faux Herder to the side. That woman has been here all along, so she knows our intention. We can't let her lead us on, Brave Surge said, adding, since we're here together, we should not compete for this and instead split the price to buy this information from her. Faux Herder nodded his head. That's a good idea. It spares one of us from not knowing this way, as well as from getting hustled. Worse is if she sells this information to one and sells it again to another. That just means everyone gets hustled, Brave Surge added. That makes a lot of sense, Faux Herder agreed. So we must work together right now, Brave Surge said earnestly. We should, indeed. After discussing the matter, the two headed back to the beauty's side. The beauty gave them a faint smile. How did the discussion between the two big bosses go? State your price. Since they were no longer fighting over the remuneration, it was naturally better to let the seller state her price. It was a very safe method in negotiations. Oh, I want to hear the price you guys have set for your remuneration first, the beauty said instead. The two looked at each other first before saying, darling, don't waste our time. Everyone here knows what's going on, so we won't be bidding for it. Just tell us your price and we'll buy it together. The beauty helplessly sighed. If that's the case, the price will be 1,000 gold coins. Damn, girl, you're quite vicious, the two exclaimed, dumbfounded. Although many people had joined Parallel World after its official release and invigorated the market by causing the prices of goods to increase as well as the amount of gold coins being spent, the surge had only been for a few months and the market had since settled back down. Thus, 1,000 gold coins was still not a small amount. Using the current market price for in-game equipment, weapons with skills, especially the ones with unique skills, were priced the highest. This type of weapons could be considered to be of the highest tier among top-grade items. Even if the additional traits on the items were bad, no one would consider them as trash. These items were usually at purple tier with a few that were at gold tier. It was just impossible for blue tier items to have unique skills. This sort of equipment had no market value to speak of, so it could only be transacted based on the buyer and the seller's agreed upon price. Out of all the officially released transactions to date, 5,000 gold coins was the highest price that a buyer and a seller had agreed on. It was unknown, though, if private deals with even higher prices had occurred among players. Below this, equipment with skills would be equipment without skills in the order of purple, gold, blue, and white tiers. The difference between the four tiers lay in the traits that the weapons had. White tier weapons had no additional traits, blue tier weapons had 2 traits, gold tier weapons had 3 or 4 traits, and purple tier had 5 or more traits. The price would be determined by what traits these items had and the value of each trait. Most items cost hundreds, while the rarely seen and thus termed as top-grade equipment cost thousands. As for the rumored green tier equipment that came in a set, it might be as good as a myth. Green tier equipment had yet to be sighted on the current market, so it naturally had no market price as well. According to the information that the officials had leaked thus far, the advantage of green tier equipment lay in the hidden traits that it had once the set entire was collected. Individually, green tier equipment was no better than blue tier or gold tier equipment and could not even compare to the purple tier equipment. Hearing that this beauty's opening price was the price for top grade equipment, the two guild leaders immediately thought that she was insane. The two had every intention of expanding their respective guilds' influence and might, so they were of course willing to pay thousands of gold coins, provided that the mage was guaranteed to join their guild. With just his IGN, neither of them felt that the price the lady had quoted them was worth it. The beauty smiled. Is it too pricey? Then, I guess we can forget about it. Yeah, we'll forget about it. It's better off just putting out those posters, Brave Surge politely declined, tugging Faux Herder along with him. Faux Herder was a bit reluctant to let go of this source of information, so he used his job class as a warrior to resist Brave Surge's pull. Brave Surge threw him a backward glance before hurriedly sending him a message. Don't be hasty. I'm sure she'll call us back. It's only a name. How is she going to earn anything from that if we pass on this offer? These two men did not waste a whole night together for naught and, at the very least, had added each other on their friends list. Faux Herder saw the logic in Brave Surge's thinking, so he quickly followed Brave Surge outside of the tavern. Are we leaving, guild leader? Fauherdor's men were still on the table, chasing after them once they saw the two guild leaders leaving the premise. "Let's go." "We'll sticking to our plan of making posters," Fauherder cried out intentionally. "Okay." The men answered as they began to follow the two men outside. "Still not calling us back?" Fauherder became quite anxious now that they were almost out of the double doors. "Guess we can't turn back, either." "Fucking hell. 1,000 gold coins. If you're gonna spend that much, go do it yourself." "I would rather stick to the posters." "I refuse to believe that she's the only one who knows this mage in Yunjuan City," Brave Surge comforted himself. The two men really ended up leaving the tavern as the beauty quietly watched them. "Oh, well, guess we really gotta put up those posters now," Fauherder sighed. Brave Surge shrugged to show his helplessness. Just as Fauherder was about to speak further, he saw two members of Carouse walk past him. Calling for Brave Surge's attention, they proceeded to tear 2 pages off the notepads that they were carrying and pasted them on the wall outside the tavern. "Fuck, you're really wily." "Your boys have already started boasting," Fauherder yelped as he read the content of Carouse's poster. "Search notice. Looking for a certain male player who has managed to join Amethyst Rebirth Guild. Please contact me if anyone has information about him." What followed after were these words in large font: "Huge cash reward awaiting you." The contact listed below was actually a player's name instead of a guild. "MHM." Fauherder nodded his head, knocking on the poster and saying to his men, "Write something like this: Don't reveal our guild's identity since that will be too conspicuous." The two guilds had not mentioned even once this black-clothed mage's prowess in this whole night of questioning and merely described him as the deplorable man who had managed to get into an all-female guild, not once indicating that he was a powerful character. "Quickly get everyone in the guild to get on this." Fauherder grew anxious once he saw that Carouse had already begun pasting their posters. While saying this, he took out his notepad and personally wrote out a copy by the tavern entrance. He then instructed everyone on the guild channel, "We need to move fast. Put posters up everywhere that Carouse has pasted into the places that their guild hasn't done so." "That's pretty good," Brave Surge commented upon seeing Fauherder's beautiful penmanship on the 2 posters the latter had hastily made. "HMPH. We're having a friendly competition right now, so we can paste wherever we want, but don't even think about tearing off the posters from our side," Fauherder warned. "Of course. We need to agree on matters when the need arises," Brave Surge said as he put forth similar instructions to his guild. "We have an accord with Cloud Herder. Nobody is allowed to tear off each other's posters. We won't tear them off, but we can just paste ours over theirs." Carouse truly did not lack for cunning schemers. "Everyone should do what they deem is appropriate." Brave Surge's words implied that he was neither against nor for the suggestion that the member had given. It was important for a guild leader to master the art of ambiguity to give members freedom to do what was necessary. Credit would be given when results were shown, while responsibility could be pushed away if needed be. It was the best of both worlds. Both guilds became busy from this point onward. The entire Yunjuan city, the walls on the streets, the doors of business establishments, the roads of often used streets, and so on, was filled with those little posters. Fauherder even instructed his men to climb up the bell tower in the city hall and throw a stack of posters off of them. "We'll let the wind be the bearer of our message," was what Fauherder said when he made them execute it. In that moment, papers flew all over Yunjuan City. Wherever players walked to, there would be posters of this black-clothed mage. There were so many of these posters that people could now recite their content word for word without looking. The contacts that the 2 large guilds had assigned quickly received many inquiries about the remuneration issue and the information required. "Hello, player. Appropriate reward will be given based on the information you have provided. If you have any information regarding the person in question, we hope to speak with you personally," was the contact's generic response to the public's general inquiries. Many players quickly began to ask for a face-to-face meeting. Fauherder and Brave Surge were elated at first and promptly set up rendezvous points, awaiting the informants to come to them. However, these 2 guild leaders soon felt that something was off, given the quick response that they were getting. With more and more people asking for a meetup and each saying that they had information regarding the Mage, the 2 realized that they themselves did not know anything about the black-clothed mage. Therefore, They had no way of verifying the validity of any information. Given how abuzz the whole city was regarding this matter, both were positive that some swindlers would be present in these meetups. This was the drawback of acquiring information through such method. If they had stated a guild was behind this, most of the swindlers would think twice before doing the deed. After all, offending a whole guild was a lot more serious than just one player. Since this was just an individual, the swindlers would not even bat an eye as they cheated their mark, quickly taking off after. In the blink of an eye, the two guilds' respective rendezvous points had already amassed 37 different names for the mage. The contacts in charge were no fools either and also realized that things had not gone according to plan upon seeing the situation at hand. These contacts also did not know if the information that they were getting held some truth, so they were truly stumped on whether to accept it or not. Some of those who had come to make a quick buck somewhat felt guilty upon seeing the situation and opted to just leave. The remaining players were those who had placed money over their morality and insisted that the information that they had provided was factual, demanding to receive the expected reward. They even tried to discredit their fellow swindlers by calling one another as liars. This was precisely how Carouse and Cloudherder ended up with 37 different IGNs. Seeing that the matter was about to escalate into a PvP when these swindlers did not get their reward, Brave Surge and Foe Herder each brought their men to their respective rendezvous points. The two were wringing their hands regarding their plight when they saw the listed names that their contacts had collected. Society was truly in a decline. This situation was a visible representation of the death of morality. The general etiquette that the people practiced in-game was no longer like before. Brave Surge attempted to add these IGNs, yet none of them were online. There was even someone called Butterfly Blue that the system had stated did not exist in-game. Who gave me this name? Brave Surge asked genially. Someone's eyes flashed, as he hurriedly bounded over. Me. You goddamn idiot. You don't even know how to swindle properly, providing a name that does not exist in the game at all. I'll show you what does not exist mean. Brave Surge casted a series of spells in his anger and bombarded the man to his death right there and then. He then slammed the butt of his magic staff on the ground as he shook the list of names in his other hand. Who else claims that the IGN he or she has given is real? No one dared to say a word. The swindlers stuck their tongues out as if this was all a prank and quickly made their escape. Looks like this method isn't working. Brave Surge sighed as he furrowed his brows. I think we need them to provide us some concrete evidence, someone suggested. Brave Surge nodded his head. Evidently, those who had just left were swindlers. Had he the heart, he would give them all a good tongue lashing for their lack of morals. Not all the players had scheduled to meet up this time. When that bunch of swindlers was chased off, others tried to muddle their way through this. Learning that they were swindlers as well, Brave Surge only awarded them his brutal threats. Furthermore, the poster's content was revised, such that players could not attempt to bluff their way through. In half an hour's time, the rendezvous point that Brave Surge had set became crisp and quiet. How are things on your end? Brave Surge messaged Foe Herder. I'm super busy. Foe Herder hurriedly replied. You've received news? Brave Surge asked, stunned. I'm erasing my points. I currently have 28 park points. Foe Herder choked back his sob, adding, I thought the patrolling soldiers would arrest me just now. Brave Surge could not stifle his laughter. It seemed that Foe Herder had a shorter fuse than him, killing all those who had attempted to bluff their way to get the reward. Could it be that no one in Yunjuan City knows this person? Brave Surge thought to himself. That's just not possible. Those who know him must be offline right now, or the ones online are all good friends of his. Sigh. Brave Surge immediately realized that their approach was a double-edged sword. Because they did not want other guilds to get a wind of such a powerful mage, they refrained from mentioning the mage's fighting prowess and only identified him as the sole male player of Amethyst Rebirth. Anyone who saw the posters would immediately assume that a bunch of players was looking for the mage to get revenge. In such a scenario, any friend of the mage would not betray him. Who would even think that a large guild was looking to recruit him? Brave Surge felt frustrated. He had originally thought that this method was rather comprehensive, yet it was actually filled with pros and cons. In the end, there were hardly any pros in this method, while all the cons were blatantly revealed. With the contact person not having anything to do for over half an hour and the lateness of the hour in game, He continued to nod off like a chick pecking on rice and could not hold himself back from yawning. He was soon sprawled on the table, fast asleep. Even brave Serge felt lethargic as well. He had done nothing of value this whole night and wasted his time on a fruitless approach. Perhaps, this method would be best employed at daytime when more people were online. Someone slipped into the room for their rendezvous point just as he was about to call it a night. Brave Serge turned his head and felt surprised. "It's you." It was the beautiful lady at the tavern. The beauty still had a mischievous grin on her face as she regarded brave Serge. "How's the result of your posters?" Brave Serge stayed silent. This woman at least had the confidence to mention that the mage they were looking for was at level 39, which made her more trustworthy than those players who had come to him today. It was quite possible that she indeed knew who the mage was. However, brave Serge was adamant on admitting that his poster plan had failed, knowing that this woman would seize the opportunity to raise the price once more. "Am I willing to spend 1,000 gold coins or not?" Brave Serge asked this question to himself. The positive thing here was that Fauherdor was not present. Although the two now had a rather cordial relationship, brave Serge would still rather find the mage while Fauherdor failed on his search for him. It was a grand opportunity to have this woman before him and not Fauherdor's. Brave Serge was quite tempted to spend 1,000 gold coins for this exclusive information, but after tonight's experience, it could be said that his trust for everyone in game was at the lowest. Even if this woman accepted his 1,000 gold coins and promised to not leak the information to Fauherdor, how would he know that she kept her word? This lady who was trying to earn a fortune from her information was very likely to look for Fauherdor once she had earned a tidy profit from him. For this greedy woman, it was not past her to do something so unscrupulous. "Big Boss Serge, what are you deeply thinking about?" The beauty's gaze on brave Serge was unreadable. "Darling, your price is just too high," brave Serge admitted. "Is that so?" The beauty laughed daintily. "I thought that after all that you have experienced, you too would understand the value of the information I have on me." "So you've already guessed the outcome." Brave Serge's expression changed. This woman is pretty far-sighted if she has already foreseen this result that neither Fauherdor nor I thought of while executing this plan. The beauty remained smiling. "So what do you want to do?" Brave Serge asked. "Continue selling the information I have on me, of course." The beauty replied frankly. "All we want to know is a name, darling." "Your price is far too high." Brave Serge did not back down. The beauty slowly shook her head. "Looks like you don't do business a lot. You've at least heard of the story behind a rare commodity resides within, right? Although some things appear to be superficial at the start, there will come a time when they rise in value. The only question is that are you able to seize this opportunity in time?" Brave Serge mirthlessly laughed. "And you think that his IGN is a rare commodity? You've wasted 2 days and yet you could not even learn his name. Would you not call it a rare commodity as well?" "I've only busied myself with this matter in this one night. There are fewer people online at night. I'm certain that I will hear something this morning," brave Serge justified. The beauty smiled. "I think I have a better understanding of his circumstance, so I can safely assure you that the situation in the day will be just the same as tonight. Because no one will even know who you're talking about." Brave Serge froze before he suddenly laughed. "The Amethyst Rebirths ladies are not online at night. Why would I be afraid to wait and see what happens at daytime?" "Did you mean to tell me that even the Amethyst Rebirths ladies don't know him?" "They do know him." The beauty chuckled slightly. "Do you think that I can't tell them to not reveal his identity because someone is trying to poach him? And that the men and women who wish to get to know them will all have ill intentions?" "You!" Brave Serge could not believe that their plan was easily uncovered by this woman. "Just how long have you got your eyes on us?" "Oh, not very long. It's only after people kept on asking me if I am a member of Amethyst Rebirth and knowing that the matter pertains to a certain male player in that guild," the beauty admitted, adding, "From that moment onward, I realize that I know something of great value. When it comes to such things, it's important to properly manage it. Don't worry, besides me, I guarantee that you won't find another person who will tell you information about him." "Are you trying to dupe me?" "HMPH. I'll have you know that I am not afraid to test whether you are the only one who has that piece of information," brave Serge challenged. "Hee. Try it if you wish, but let me tell you, if you have yet to find out anything by the end of the PvP tournament the next night, the price for this information will increase. You should be aware that most guilds that are still in the running are no longer small guilds. They will most likely have the same intentions as you do and will love to poach him away to their guilds. Wonder which guild is Amethyst Rebirth matched up with this time? I haven't checked it out yet. Hee. No matter. Given the strength he possesses, he is bound to attract attention no matter the match's outcome. I do hope that Amethyst Rebirth wins, though. The more rounds he gets through, the more attention he will get. Can you even imagine how much more I could earn once all the big guilds wish to know about his name? When the beauty finished her soliloquy, she gave Brave Surge a wink that was full of expectation. Without waiting for Brave Surge to say another word, she had already waved her sleeves gracefully and turned away. Walking a few steps, she turned back and smiled. I'll take my leave first. You better think carefully, Big Boss Surge. The price I have set will still be 1,000 gold coins before the upcoming match. You can send me a private message later. My name is Zyzioshin. Zyzioshin then drifted off, leaving Brave Surge and the other members with him rooted to the spot. One piece of information for 1,000 gold coins. To buy or not to buy, that was the question. Chapter 172, an epiphany. The sun was already shining brightly, be it in game or in reality. So a vibrant morning greeted everyone today. A soft breeze gently carried several flyers away like stringless kites above Brave Surge's head. Sadly, Brave Surge was not in a bright and cheery mood today. With a wave of his hand, a ball of fire formed and shot toward the scattered posters on the ground, burning them into fine ash that the wind blew away. Brave Surge's search for a certain mage still came up with nothing even though it was already daytime, ruining his mood immensely. Furthermore, the men he had asked to investigate this Zyzioshin person discovered that she was quite a popular character in the trading community. Many claimed that the prices she put forth for any kinds of in-game goods were always fair and that she had a good grasp of the pricing of items in Yunjuan City. Is she a professional trader, then? Brave Surge wrinkled his brows in distaste. He had always hated this sort of gamers. He viewed any player who would rather do business online instead of play the game seriously as extremely distasteful. Brave Surge had never considered this sort of players as having any value. Even if I die, I won't let that Zyzioshin lady earn 1,000 gold coins from me, he resolved to himself. And yet, he could not help but worry about Foherter's side. If Zyzioshin sought Foherter next, he would probably pay the stated price. After all, Foherter did not show enough restraint back when they were leaving the tavern. Seeing that Foherter was still showing as online on his friends list, Brave Surge sent him a message. What are you up to? I just finished clearing off my park value, so I'm about to log off. Foherter exhaled deeply in relief. Any leads on your end? Brave Surge asked. Nope. I'll wait till midday before deciding on what to do next. Few people are online at night, Foherter replied. Did that lady from the tavern look for you again? Brave Surge was not in the mood to beat around the bush, so he promptly asked him this question. Nah, Foherter replied, saying, are you still thinking about her? You're insane. 1,000 gold coins? I believe 100 gold coins will more than suffice to loosen the lips of those from Amethyst Rebirth. It's just a name, and it's not even a guarantee that he can be poached even if his name is revealed to others. Surely, they wouldn't be too cautious and discreet just to refrain themselves from revealing a name, right? You're right, Brave Surge answered. This was indeed another method he had been thinking about. Okay. That's enough for now. I'm really tired, so I'm logging off. With that last line, Foherter promptly went offline. Brave Surge was also feeling extremely tired at the moment. He immediately sent out a notice on the guild channel for the players who were online in the day to continue the matter. The guild would reward the person accordingly as long as he or she had information on the target. After making all the necessary arrangements, Brave Surge and his friends were about to head off toward the nearest log-off point, the Mage Academy, as well when a bellow came from behind them. Bounty mission. Please leave if you're not involved. Brave Surge froze. He had park value on him. Although he was not as crazy as Foherter with his 28 park points, he had still killed off quite a few of those shameless swindlers hours ago. Brave Surge had accumulated 6 park points overnight. He had even reminded Foherter, who was crazily erasing his park points, about it, so that he would not accidentally pick up the bounty mission targeting him. Who would have guessed that someone else would still target him in the end? This doesn't make sense at all. Besides that anomaly foe herder, who would actually pick up a bounty mission with 6 park points? Oh, it's now 5 park points, not too far off from 4 park points. In fact, Brave Surge and his friends slowly turn around to look at the illogical person and instantly felt tears welling up in their eyes. It was truly a matter of searching repeatedly among the crowd, as the person that they were looking for was currently standing before them. Brave Surge was overcome with emotions, so he stuttered for the longest time as he pointed at the mage. You. Right before him was Goofy in the flesh. As a physical education teacher, he usually did not have classes in the morning. Still, he also usually did not get online to play games at this time of the day. It just so happened that Goofy had managed to reach level 40 after the 2 matches last night, so he was hoping to do his job class advancement now to experiment with it in the upcoming PvP tournament tonight. This was why he had hurriedly rushed back to play the game after his morning exercises. After getting online, he immediately made his way to the Mage Academy, coincidentally passing by the bounty assignment hall. Checking the wanted players list must have become a habit of his after spending over a month doing bounty mission. As if Goofy was guided by the Grim Reaper, he entered the hall and took a glance at the wanted players list. Discovering a rarely seen, lovely fat lamb worth of 5 park points in Yunjuan City, Goofy delightfully laughed. By the time he finished laughing, he was already out of the hall with that bounty mission on his mission log. Goofy was very experienced when it came to doing bounty mission and immediately confirmed that the target was within the city with a glance at the coordinates. He resolved to do this bounty mission first before starting off his day. Royal Godcall, who had completed his 100 consecutive bounty mission, received a Windchaser's emblem of his own, so he returned Goofy's Windchaser's emblem right away. With a minute-long refresh rate of the coordinates, Goofy quickly determined the direction that his target was heading, the Mage Academy. Goofy felt extremely gratified. He would be able to advance his job class after slaying his target. How very convenient this was. Passing through an alley on his way toward the Mage Academy, he spotted his bounty mission target just ahead him and abruptly shouted his signature warning, "Bounty mission. Please leave if you're not involved." The target and several men beside him slowly turned around, suddenly looking extremely emotional. His target even pointed at him while incessantly stuttering, You. Goofy finished his line for his target. "That's right, it's you. The rest of you, make way." Fearing that his target would run off, he quickened his pace for a few steps. When he got close enough to his target, he realized that the person looked quite familiar. Pondering for a moment, he blurted out, "Oh, it's you." Carouse's guild leader. "Ah, that's right. It's me. We've met before." Brave Surge felt pleased that the mage had recognized him, making it a lot easier to talk to him. In the end, Goofy excitedly rubbed his hands. "So my target is an expert. How exciting." With that, he took out his Moonlit Nightfalls from his dimensional pocket, gazed at the other men beside Brave Surge, and asked, "Are you guys going to join in?" The men looked at one another before gazing at Brave Surge. "Wait a minute." Brave Surge hurriedly shouted, "We've actually been looking for you the entire night." Hee. "I know." Goofy casually shot his hand out and grabbed hold of a piece of paper flying in the air. Taking a look at it, he recited aloud, "Looking for a male mage who found his way into Amethyst Rebirth Guild. Please contact me if anyone has information about this man. Huge cash reward awaiting you." Did you guys distribute all these flyers?" Brave Surge shook his head. "What you're holding isn't ours." He then used his foot to indicate the posters littering the pavement. "These are ours." "Must be tough distributing all that," Goofy remarked sincerely. He had seen quite a lot of these posters on his way here, which meant that these people had put a lot of effort into doing this stuff. Had he not been in a rush, he would have been very willing to entertain these people by following the instructions to contact the person stated on those posters. "No, it's all worth it," Brave Surge humbly replied. Goofy took 2 steps forward and crooked his head to look at the posters on the ground. This says huge cash reward awaiting you as well." "How much is that?" "Now that I delivered myself to you, shouldn't I have doubled the reward or something?" Brave Surge felt stunned before quickly saying, "Yes, That makes sense. Name your price. In order to show how much he valued this person, Brave Surge decided to please him as best as he could. Handing even 1,000 gold coins to him is definitely better than giving it to that Zyzioshan. Even if I fail to poach him over, he will at least think highly of me. However, Gufei merely laughed. What price? I was just pulling your leg. He then swung his sword about, creating a dark purple streak as it flashed by. Come. Gufei became focused as he assumed a fighting stance. Come what? Brave Surge asked, shocked. Bounty mission. You're my target, Gufei replied. After wasting half a day getting nowhere, Brave Surge almost wanted to faint when he heard Gufei's words. He hurriedly said, don't be in such a rush. Listen to why I'm looking for you first. I know why you're looking for me. You want to recruit me into your guild. No need to. I'm satisfied with my current guild, Gufei said. Gufei was holed up in the room at the back when Brave Surge went to raise bar to inquire about him. Naturally, he would have an inkling of why Brave Surge was looking for him. Brave Surge already knew that it would not be that easy. Even taking the perspective of secular players into consideration, successfully joining an all-female guild could be considered as a dream fulfilled for many of them. Gufei had already attained what he wanted in a guild based on this viewpoint alone, so even a bigger guild would not change his mind. Unless it's an all-female guild with even more beauties in it. Amethyst Rebirth. What's the point of being in a small guild like that? Brave Surge decided to emphasize on the all-female guild's mediocrity to change Gufei's mind. You're right, there's no particular meaning whatsoever. Gufei nodded his head in agreement. So come join our large guild. Brave Surge was almost jumping out of his skin. Could it be that he had unlocked the special magical power that could change people's minds with a few simple words? A bigger guild would also have no meaning whatsoever, Gufei continued. Brave Surge woke up to reality as the realization that he had been thinking nonsense hit him. What do you mean? Gufei waved the sword in his hand. Come, already. Oh. Brave Surge furrowed his brows as he finally saw Gufei for what he was, a PvP maniac. This sort of talent should definitely not stay in that female guild. Brave Surge felt that this was even more so. Staring at Gufei with hurried gaze, he said, since that's the case, let's make a wager. We'll have a duel. If you lose, join my guild. If you win, if I win, you'll head to jail. As simple as that. No need to come up with extra penalty of our own, Gufei interrupted. If you win, I'll give this magic staff to you, Brave Surge continued as he took out his blue magic staff. Chapter 173, Ice and Fire. Gufei did not say another word. It was not because Brave Surge's rare magic staff had moved him, but because the opponent would fight him more seriously if there was something big at stake. That would make this PvP all the more meaningful. With that thought in mind, he drew a faint slash in the air with his sword. Don't be lenient. I don't care if you kill me, I'll still stand by my word. Gufei knew from experience that showing leniency would hugely impact the actual strength that anyone could display in a fight. Brave Surge smiled. Come, then. Few people were online this early in the morning, so the streets were pretty much devoid of any onlookers or passers-by. The men accompanying Brave Surge retreated to the side as they quietly surveyed the two men's PvP. Gufei inhaled deeply as his expression turned serious. Brave Surge was ranked 9th on the Mage leaderboard and was considered as an expert mage in Parallel World. Gufei did not dare treat such a gaming expert like Brave Surge so lightly, as there were many aspects in which he could not beat the latter. The glow of Brave Surge's magic staff was very eye-catching. It was obviously a top-grade weapon, so his spells could probably insta-kill players. 2. Fireball. Shoot. Starting the fight by firing off a ball of fire toward his opponent, Gufei darted forward as well. Fireball. Shoot. Brave Surge fired off a ball of fire as well before waving his magic staff once more. Frozen Ice Trail. Go. A soft rippling sound was heard before a 1-meter layer of cracked ice formed on the ground. This ice crackled and flew toward Gufei's feet. Gufei had never seen such a scene before, so he could not help but feel stunned about it. However, he quickly recovered himself and took 2 steps to the side. The ice path created by the spill swept past where Gufei had been standing moments ago as it reflected the morning sunlight. What is that? Gufei curiously asked as he casually swung his sword on the fireball closing in on him. I learned this skill from a scroll. Fireball. Shoot. Brave Surge answered and summoned another ball of fire. Fireball formed on his fingertips, just in time to block the fireball Gufei had shot at him. The two balls of fire collided and dissipated upon contact. "That's no easy feat," Gufei praised. Casting fireball to block another's fireball required excellent eye-hand coordination, which was more difficult than merely dissipating it with a sword. "I am flattered," Brave Surge humbly said as he tapped his magic staff on the ground once more. Frozen Ice Trail. Go. Another 1-meter length of cracked ice rushed over Gufei's direction and he smilingly dodged to the side. "This spell is pretty nice looking, but it's a pity that its speed is too slow. How are you ever gonna hit me with it?" Arctic Whirlwind. Spin. Brave Surge merely casted this spell after summoning Frozen Ice Trail. Gufei turned his body to the side to evade the spell as well, yet Brave Surge directed Arctic Whirlwind to Gufei's new direction with a slight move of his magic staff. The caster could manipulate this spell's movement for a limited amount of time at the cost of mana. The speed of Arctic Whirlwind was not slow, and even the speedster's Felt Dancer was just barely faster than it. Naturally, Gufei, who was a lot slower than her, could not extricate himself from this frigid gust. Furthermore, Brave Surge had a good control of the spell. During their guild's PvP match, he had flawlessly prevented Felt Dancer from getting near young Master Han with Arctic Whirlwind. Right now, it was hardly difficult for Brave Surge to hit Gufei with Arctic Whirlwind. Seeing that he had no means to dodge the spell, Gufei decided to cleave the attack with his sword under Twin Incineration. In response, Brave Surge calmly raised his hand to cast Arctic Whirlwind once more and send it toward Gufei. Gufei could tell that things were looking bleak. Fighting mana with mana was a huge problem for him, as he could only cast Twin Incineration 4 times even with his full mana. Brave Surge must have seen through his weakness and was thus trying to intentionally waste Gufei's limited mana. Arctic Whirlwind was already upon Gufei while he was still pondering about the matter at hand. Helpless, he could only cast Twin Incineration once more to take care of it. He then pointed the tip of his sword forward. Descending Wheel of Flames. Descend. Hee. You do know that your spell casting time is very long, right? Brave Surge asked. Of course, I do, Gufei answered. You can't outpredict me. I guarantee that your spell won't hit me if I remain standing here. Still, I will take 2 steps forward just to be on the safe side. With that, Gufei saw the flame wheel appear and descend behind Brave Surge. Looking backward, Brave Surge smilingly remarked, "Indeed, my 2 steps are unnecessary. Your spell release is very precise. You're an expert, all right." Gufei sighed in awe. With his long casting time, anyone would be able to run away if the person saw him cast his spell. Therefore, he needed to predict the direction of movement of his opponent before attacking deceptively. Gufei had thought that Brave Surge would attempt to dodge his spell by retreating, so he had tossed the flame wheel to a position behind the ladder to blast him off for good. Unexpectedly, Brave Surge saw through his ploy. This had made him feel helpless. Gufei's attack was dependent on instinct, while Brave Surge actually considered everything from a logical perspective. Because the mage's hands or weapons needed to point toward their targets when releasing spells or chanting, veteran mages like Brave Surge could easily infer where the spells would hit just by looking at the directions the opposing mages were pointing. Using the terms in Kung Fu, Brave Surge's eyes were fast enough, while Gufei's hands were too slow. This caused him to miss Brave Surge entirely. Arctic Whirlwind. Spin. Brave Surge once more summoned Arctic Whirlwind. Gufei was ready for it this time and he preemptively sprinted out of its way. He could only cast Twin Incineration once more, so slashing out using it right now would mean that he could no longer use it again after. The only thing he could do to evade the attack was to close in on Brave Surge before the whirlwind hit him. Alternatively, he could close in on Brave Surge just as Arctic Whirlwind hit him, so that his Twin Incineration would be able to take down Brave Surge and Arctic Whirlwind together. Gufei thought of these 2 options as he sprinted forward, yet a few more steps in front was the Frozen Ice Trail that Brave Surge had previously casted. The first path had already disappeared, but the second path was still around. Gufei did not dare step on it, so he hopped across it lightly. It was at this moment that Brave Surge chanted once more, "Frozen Ice Trail, go." The same rippling sound was heard, yet it now possessed a different speed. Frozen Ice Trail instantly covered the spot where Gufei would land from his hop. He tried stretching out his legs to avoid landing on the path of cracked ice, yet he was a step too late. Ice crackled as his feet landed on the icy surface. In the next instant, a chilling sensation traveled up his body from the sole of his feet. His legs promptly became numb and Gufei found himself unable to exert the least bit of strength to even shift them by half an inch. Brave Surge was about to gleefully say a few words when Gufei returned the sword to his dimensional pocket and took off Midnight Spirit Robe before pointing to the ground while mumbling something. "What are you doing?" Brave Surge asked, perplexed. With his frozen ice trail immobilizing Gufei on the spot, Brave Surge thought that his victory was as good as decided, so Gufei's weird actions baffled him. Gufei smiled faintly, "I'm chanting." "Eh?" As Brave Surge was trying to fathom what Gufei meant, flames suddenly sprouted from beneath the ladder's feet and enveloped him entirely. "Suicide? Is he trying to off himself so as to not lose by my hands? Or is he trying to bluff his way out?" Brave Surge just thought of this when Gufei darted out of the ice trail, causing him to feel dumbfounded. The spell's freezing effect should not have been so short, yet Gufei seemed to have recovered his speed. Could it be that the blazing tree of 1,000 inferno he had casted on himself removed frozen ice trail's freezing effect? From a logical standpoint, it would make sense for fire to remove the chilling effect of ice with its heat. However, Brave Surge was not sure if the game had this sort of design. Even if the game did have such design, no one would probably do what Gufei had just done, considering that Parallel World did not provide players immunity from friendly fire. The spell's freezing effect and that raging inferno should have inflicted sufficient damage to cause Gufei's death, yet he was puzzlingly still alive. Just Fireball could have freed Gufei, so why had he casted Blazing Tree of 1,000 Inferno? While Brave Surge thought of Gufei's spell only removing frozen ice trail's freezing effect, the latter's Blazing Tree of 1,000 Inferno actually also evaporated the Arctic whirlwind that was heading his way. To think someone would think of doing such a thing. Brave Surge did not know whether to laugh or cry at this scene. Gufei had already made his way before him, yet Brave Surge did not get flustered and simply stated, "You've lost." "How so?" Gufei asked, surprised. "Aren't you out of mana?" Brave Surge smilingly asked. "Casting Fireball once, Twin Incineration twice, Descending Wheel of Flames once, and Blazing Tree of 1,000 Inferno once." Brave Surge had calculated that Gufei's mana should be depleted by now based on their PvP match the other day. Gufei smiled faintly. "I can't beat you in terms of spells since that is never my forte." After saying this, he reached into his dimensional pocket for his sacred flames of baptism and executed a downward cleave. Brave Surge felt shocked. He had never imagined for this mage to be such a person. To actually hide a Chinese broadsword for close combat when he was out of mana, he simply did not have the slightest bearing of a mage. As he was thinking of this, the Chinese broadsword had already swung toward him. Brave Surge timely raised his staff to block the blow, yet Gufei's downward cleave was actually a feint. Seeing that he had lured Brave Surge's magic staff away, Gufei immediately shifted the blade's path mid-flow and turned the cleave into a horizontal slash along Brave Surge's waist. Brave Surge felt at ease when he saw that the damage inflicted on him by that one slash was minimal. He actually thought that Gufei had some strange ability to his character, yet the damage the latter had inflicted on him proved that melee was not the mage's forte either. Ring of Brave Surge was just about to chant for Ring of Fire, yet another speedy slash of Gufei interrupted his spell casting. Not only did Gufei interrupt his incantation, the Chinese broadsword also sent forth a fiery glow that ignited Brave Surge's body upon contact. Additional fire attack! Brave Surge exclaimed, stunned. This sort of attack style was popular for a period of time in Yunjuan City due to 27,149 using this method to crush a thief. That player was a mage from Yunjuan City as well. Brave Surge finally lost his calm demeanor. Could it be that this mage before him was the same person? If that was really the case, given his ability to destroy a thief in close combat, it would truly be as he had said moments ago. Spells were truly not his forte. Oh, crap. Brave Surge spat these two words internally. He tried chanting another spell, yet he was once more interrupted by Gufei's Chinese broadsword. The additional fire attack ignited him again. This worried him as a mage's additional fire attack was not low in the least. Chapter 174, An Inhumane Quest. Gufei was fast, and his Chinese broadsword was even faster. His every strike was immediately followed by another strike, decorating Brave Surge's entire body with bloody cuts. Gu Fei's luck was truly down in the dumps today, as Brave Surge still did not die even after receiving many of his strikes. The insufficient proxing of Gu Fei's additional fire attack and the high magic resistant equipment that Brave Surge was wearing for this PvP significantly lowered the damage that Gu Fei could deal on him. Still, death was just a matter of time for Brave Surge, who was powerlessly receiving all of Gu Fei's attacks. Brave Surge's several companions had thought at first that Gu Fei would easily be dealt with once he entered Brave Surge's personal range, but what had happened in the end was the complete opposite of their expectation. Brave Surge was the one being handled easily by Gu Fei at close range, and all his attempts at spell chanting were easily interrupted by the latter. These men exchanged looks. To help or not to help? That was the question. This duel was suggested by Brave Surge, so the mating their guild leader now that he was losing the fight would be as good as slapping Brave Surge's mouth. Hesitating for quite a while, they finally despondently chose to not aid their guild leader. Gu Fei was currently one with his sword, and he went about cutting Brave Surge with great delight. In fact, his eyes reflected dejection when Brave Surge finally turned into a beam of white light. I could have executed all the moves in my 9 Blades of Tang's Do on Ling 3rd style with just 2 more cuts. Such a pity. Gu Fei shook his head in regret. Returning his sword inside his dimensional pocket, Gu Fei glanced at his HP and saw that it was in the red with only a few numbers away from 0. Brave Surge did not even need to cast spells. Just a rap of his magic staff would knock Gu Fei back into the Mage Academy. That was a close shave, indeed. Gu Fei sighed repeatedly. Fortunately, he was doing bounty mission and was thus wearing the Windchaser's emblem and not Eddie's emblem. Had he been equipping Eddie's emblem, the accessory's additional 6 points to intelligence would have raised his magic attack power a bit more, causing the blazing 3 of 1,000 inferno he had used before to burn his bit of HP off and essentially scorch off Gu Fei's chance to make it out alive of the ensuing conflagration. Gu Fei noted some learning points from the recent PvP in his mind as he replenished his HP by eating the loaf of bread that he had taken out of his dimensional pocket. With all these done, he turned his gaze over to those carouse's observers. Although the men displayed a shocked expression on their faces, they did not move to attack Gu Fei. They truly have an upright personality. Gu Fei felt disappointed by this, as he was really hoping for them to be scoundrels that would try to avenge their guild leader's death. Are you guys really alright with this? I'm leaving if there's nothing else. Gu Fei was truly unwilling to give up another chance to PvP. The men merely shook their heads. I'm leaving, then. Gu Fei dejectedly waved goodbye to these men. Wait a second, bro. Can you tell us your name? Someone among Brave Surge's buddies asked. 1,000 Miles Drunk, Gu Fei answered. The person nodded his head, and they sent Gu Fei off toward the Mage Academy with their eyes alone. The Mage Academy was quite deserted this early in the morning. Gu Fei walked directly to the NPC instructor who was programmed to teach mages new spells at certain levels. Seeing that Gu Fei was now at level 40, the NPC instructor promptly asked him if he wanted to do his job class advancement, and Gu Fei replied to this in the affirmative. The instructor then gave him the job class advancement quest. The invincible park expert Gu Fei was momentarily stunned by the quest he had just been given. It was a very simple quest, yet it utterly revealed the game company's true intention, as it only required one thing: money. No task was needed to be done to complete the job class advancement, and a player only had to pay the fee of 200 gold coins to advance his or her job class. This sum was neither plentiful nor insignificant. The problem was that Gu Fei currently did not have it. To be precise, the 37 gold coins, 21 silver coins, and 8 copper coins that he was carrying right now was not enough. The 2 successful deals that Young Master's elite mercenary group had had during Parallel Worlds Open Beta days made Gu Fei quite the rich man, and this resulted into him not realizing the significance of in-game currency. After all, the large money he had acquired early on allowed him to survive until this day without having to worry about the content of his coin purse and to splurge on fruits for his limited amount of mana. Now that he was facing the system's lion appetite through the required fee for the job class advancement, Gu Fei finally realized how meager the content of his coin purse. Gu Fei left the Mage Academy dejectedly. Remembering that he still had not submitted the result of his bounty mission, Gufei activated his Windchaser's emblem and teleported himself into the bounty assignment hall. With the mission accomplished, he was given the corresponding reward of money and experience points. Gufei would usually feel satisfied with the paltry monetary reward for the bounty mission, but due to the job class advancement fee of 200 gold coins, he suddenly thought that the system was being very stingy. I spent a long time slaying the target almost at the cost of my life, yet I was only awarded these few coins? This is truly inhumane. Gufei complained to a nearby player who was in the process of choosing a mission. The man turned his head over to glance at Gufei. Oh, yeah, doing bounty mission is extremely risky, yet the reward is really meager. No wonder it is virtually deserted here, no one wishes to do these missions, Gufei remarked as he looked all around him. Besides Gufei and the man next to him, the entire hall was devoid of people. You're not wrong, the person replied, adding, but do you know that in our city, there's this one guy who is really passionate about doing this trashy bounty mission? He would come here every day just to do it. Oh, have you seen him? No, it's just a rumor I've heard. They said he is a mage dressed in black robe. His weapon of choice is a sword, which seems pretty powerful. That's quite an impressive person, so I don't understand why he would idiotically keep on doing these trashy missions. The person wondered aloud as he chose a mission, turning his head to face Gufei. It was at this point that the man realized that the person he had been talking to all this while was a mage wearing a black robe. Gufei reached into his dimensional pocket and took out a purple sword, extending it until it was just inches away from the man's eyes. Is this the sword you are talking about? Of course not. The man blustered. Actually, doing bounty mission is very meaningful. See how I'm also doing it right now? Alright, I've got a mission to do. I'm leaving now. The man then disappeared in a flash, leaving the depressed Gufei by himself inside the deserted hall. Money. Where can I earn some money? Gufei exited the hall while tossing this question all about his head. This thing called money could truly affect people's harmonious relationship, as Gufei started to resent young Master Han. To only have 2 completed transactions all this time, we have only completed 2 requests from others even till now. Is he even serious about managing the mercenary group's business properly? The thought of business suddenly sparked an idea inside Gufei. He could sell the many miscellaneous items he had acquired from his past monster grinding sessions, as these looted items would easily cause him to suffer a loss if he tried selling them via the auction house. Author's note, refer to chapter 100 for the reason. He would have to set up a stall and hawk those items if he wished to earn anything back from them. Since Gufei was in need of money, it made perfect sense for him to try his hand at being a merchant. With this thought in mind, Gufei made his way toward the warehouse near the entrance to Yunjuan City. Arriving there, he quickly checked his storage box and saw the many items he had accumulated over time. Fortunately, he had later focused on doing bounty mission instead of monster grinding. If not, his storage would have run out of space long ago. Gufei took out a burlap sack and started stuffing all the items in his storage into it. This burlap sack of his had quite a history. Back when Gufei was second on the leveling efficiency leaderboard, he used to store all the items he had looted while grinding into this burlap sack. After a past misunderstanding, this burlap sack came to be in possession of June's Rain. Afterward, she used it to store food and drinks on their way to Y City. It was only before the start of Parallel Worlds event that June's Rain returned from Y City to Yunjuan City and handed over this burlap sack to its original owner. Gufei could recall the days he had diligently spent grinding on monsters with this burlap sack, and it filled him with plenty of emotions. Filling the sack as best as he could, Gufei unsteadily made his way toward Peddler's Street 2. Along the way, he excitedly calculated, one piece of equipment was about 10 gold coins, and 2 would make it 20 gold coins. If there were 20, then he would make 200 gold coins. Everywhere in the game was deserted so early in the morning, but there was one place that was the exception, and that was the Peddler's Street 2. This street was formed after the game had officially been released. It was partly because Peddler's Street 1, the first street that was used for doing transactions among players, was occupied by veteran players ever since the day's open beta, and the items they sold were of higher quality, so a majority of the new players could only feel frustrated at the high prices of the in-game goods. Eventually, the newer players formed a marketplace that would cater to their needs, which was how Peddler's Street 2 came to be. The development of this street was fast because the newer players were extremely passionate about playing the game, and the numbers of new players far exceeded the numbers of veteran players. This resulted into Peddler's Street 2 having a steady stream of players looking to hawk off their goods or buy affordable in-game items. Although Peddler's Streets 3 and 4 also came to be, the Peddler's Street 2 remained as bustling as ever. All the players in Yunjuan City knew that if one wanted to hawk goods at the dead of the night or the wee hours of the morning, the Peddler's Street 2 would be the best place to do so, as it was the only street that remained lively at any given time of the day. Gufei had long heard of the Peddler's Street 2, but this was the first time he visited it. The rumors were indeed true, while everywhere else would be deserted at certain times of the day. The Peddler's Street 2 would always be crowded as ever. Because it was still in the morning, the players in Peddler's Street 2 had the same drowsy expression on their faces. Upon closer inspection, Gufei noted that this drowsy expression on the players' faces could be grouped into two. One group might look drowsy and bleary-eyed, yet this group is in high spirits. This group must be consisted of players who had just woken up and crawled into the game. The other group looked drowsy and sleepy as a result of lethargy, not even having the strength to speak. Clearly, this group was consisted of players who had played the game the entire night and had yet to head to bed. Gufei walked along the street as he searched for an empty spot to set up his stall. Gufei's burlap sack was truly filled to the brim, unlike the average players, so a normal spot would not do for him at all. After walking around for 1/4 of the whole lane, Gufei finally spotted a larger empty spot. Quickening his pace, he staked his claim on it and promptly dumped the content of his burlap sack onto the ground. Gufei's items spilled all over the ground, with quite a few of them even bouncing all the way to the middle of the street. Wow! The eyes of the many players around, especially the two standing behind their stalls next to Gufei's, were immediately attracted by the loud noise. The items Gufei had brought piled like a small mountain. The two players only had small stalls with few items on display, making their offering seem meager in comparison to Gufei's. Chapter 175, Gufei, the merchant. Accumulating a large amount of products and selling them in one shot was actually something that the merchants or business-minded players would only do during special occasions. A good example was when Parallel World transitioned from an open beta game to a full-fledged game, where a large influx of players entering the game had increased the demand for certain goods and subsequently caused the prices of items to inflate. Recognizing it as a great opportunity to earn a handsome profit, the business-minded players seized the chance to hoard all the low-cost items during the open beta period, only to sell them at high prices after the game was officially released. But since the players themselves were the #1 consumers and farmers of items in Parallel World, the prices of in-game goods had only spiked for a short duration. The top-level veteran players were able to exploit this special situation first, while low-level veteran players were behind by quite a bit. Top-grade equipment was of course more expensive, so not many players could hoard a lot in bulk. Therefore, many merchants had chosen to accumulate mid-level equipment, instead. Logically speaking, once the newbie players reached a higher level, they could of course farm for better equipment by themselves instead of buying from merchants. The same equipment could be acquired by either looting from the higher level monsters or obtaining rewards from the harder quests, so the price increase for mid-level equipment only saw a temporary spike of a few days. When these new players were capable of farming better items for themselves and increased the availability of these items, the prices of goods naturally deflated. Even if the prices did not fall in response to the increase in the supply of in-game goods, increasing the item prices would be hard-pressed anyhow. Buying low, selling high might seem like a simple concept, yet a lot of knowledge was actually attached to it. In fact, few players could make use of this concept properly, as seen by how the poor greatly outnumbered the rich inside the game. Not everyone had a full grasp on the buying low, selling high concept, thus their incapability to apply the proper business strategies to actually profit from it, and a sizable portion of those players who had employed this concept ended up with more items than what they managed to sell off. The rules of online games were ever changing, especially when it came to beginner items that would lose their value once the players leveled up further. At the moment, the prices of these beginner items had already hit an all-time low, and those who tried increasing the prices for these items were bound to earn no profit at all. This was because of the existence of the official tradings managed by the system, and the competition was stiff among the system and the merchants when it came to the better market prices for items. The players with a good eye could tell that the pile of items Gouffé had just dumped on the ground were mostly for low-level players, causing them to immediately associate Gouffé to those loser resale merchants that had missed to catch the wave of buyers back then. Just the fact that this person had kept all these trashy items until now was truly a failure among failures. Thus, a whole crowd of men soon gleefully regarded Gouffé as a lousy merchant without a shred of sympathy. The new generation of players hated those resellers who had exploited the chance to earn their money, while the veteran players were jealous that the resellers had seized the opportunity to gain some cash. But the one thing these two types of people shared in common was how they would feel a touch of schadenfreude whenever they saw a reseller failing to sell his or her products. These two types of people were actually the representation of all in-game players, and right now, everyone in Peddler's Street 2 was hoping to witness how the loser merchant Gouffé would make a fool of himself by selling these trashy items. Gouffé, who did not know about this, was currently feeling quite pleased that he had received the surrounding players' undivided attention, thinking that his business would likely see a great success. With that positive thought in mind, he squatted down and began to carefully tidy up the equipment on the ground. Although the equipment in Parallel World had no level requirement, it was pretty obvious which grade it belonged to based on the equipment's trait value. By knowing the additional traits the equipment had, its worth could be determined. The items Gouffé had on hand were all blue tier. There was simply no market price for white tier equipment unless it was of a high grade. Blue tier equipment was the most commonly seen items, so a majority of the normal players had full blue tier gear at the very least. Players usually began the game by equipping themselves from top to bottom with blue tier gear, and they would slowly try replacing their blue tier equipment with gold tier one by doing all sorts of tradings or quests. As for the purple tier equipment, the current players could only fantasize about ever attaining one. Gouffé quickly sorted out his for sale items into various slots according to their type: headgear, chest pieces, weapons, body accessories, footwear. Every slot possible filled up the space before Gouffé. Nodding his head in satisfaction, he wiped the sweat off his forehead and lifted his head. Many players were watching what Gouffé was doing, so he quickly flashed them an amiable smile. "Are you interested in any of these pieces of equipment?" All cheerfully shook their heads. Gouffé's smile somewhat became stiff, which made everyone even happier. The items Gouffé had on display were obsolete, so none here had any need for them. And even if they did, they would not buy them from him. Peddler's Street 2 was long. What Gouffé had were common items, and many peddlers were hawking similar wares. Would the let this guy suffer this lost to death mentality, everyone walked away. Nonetheless, quite a few of them stayed to soak in on the pleasurable sight of Gouffé's frustrated look. Gouffé was at a loss. Are my items really that obsolete? He could not help but think of this. Most of the items he was selling were drops of level 20 to 30 monsters, which were considered to be pretty low grade as far as equipment went. Still, he had seen that the stalls lining this very lane had similar common grade equipment to his, which meant that the items were not completely unmarketable. I'll just wait patiently. With such a thought in mind, Gouffé no longer felt anxious and even found himself a comfortable sitting position to patiently wait for customers. The common sound that could be heard in Peddler's Street 2 was the haggling of players. As Gouffé quietly waited for customers, he listened to the players bartering to gain a better market insight. Gouffé had not done any research regarding the pricing of his equipment, as he was only planning to sell every item for 10 gold coins until he obtained the 200 gold coins he needed. But after listening to the haggling all around him, Gouffé now more or less had an idea of how much his items on hand were currently worth, and his pile of obsolete items was hardly worth 10 gold coins each. A nearby stall was selling a pair of footwear for only 8 gold coins, even when it had better traits than any of the items Gouffé had on display. Comparing the traits of his items with the other merchants' successfully sold items, Gouffé finally realized how naive he was at item tradings. Even if he managed to sell off his pile of items, he might not even make 50 gold coins in total. To reach that goal of 200 gold coins, he would have to make a few trips back to the warehouse. Gouffé treated selling items just like how he treated his stat point allocation. He only cared for speed. Gufei cared not even if he incurred a loss and merely wanted to quickly gather the 200 gold coins he needed for his job class advancement. Fueled by this thought, he raised his voice and said, "Dollar stall here. Every item is only going for 1 gold coin, buy it if you want it." Low-priced goods would always be the most tempting items in a marketplace. That one shout of Gufei caused many players to bound toward him immediately. Even some of the players who had their stalls set up came by and had a look. Gufei felt delighted as he began calculating in his mind. 1 piece of equipment for 1 gold coin. So 200 pieces of equipment would give me 200 gold coins. That should be about everything I have in my storage. Just a few more trips and 200 gold coins won't be an issue anymore. Unexpectedly, he was still being too optimistic. The players who had been enticed by his dollar stall call carefully examined the items in Gufei's stall, and almost all of them quickly shook their heads and departed. It would not matter how cheap the items were if they had no need for them. Furthermore, the items Gufei was selling were odds and ends that did not have any worth in buying low and selling high. Quite a few players had come with such a thought in mind, yet they could only leave dispiritedly once they realized that nothing was of value in Gufei's stall. Some players remained, yet they were all beginners. Since equipment in Parallel World had no level requirement, outfitting themselves with above level 20 gear was very tempting to these beginners. Nonetheless, such fresh players would not be that rich and would have silver and copper coins at most. As such, they resolutely haggled with Gufei for that 1 gold coin. Gufei stiffly said, "It's already cheap enough as it is, it can't be any cheaper." This caused 3 potential customers to leave. The remaining 2 patiently attempted to wear down Gufei. Just the term big bro had been tossed about so frivolously by these 2 customers. In the end, Gufei finally came up with a buy 3, get 1 free sales pitch, allowing them to only spend 3 gold coins and obtain 4 items from Gufei. The 2 customers happily left with their successful transactions, all that just to earn 6 gold coins. Gufei emotionally took out his money pouch and placed the 6 gold coins inside it, lowering his head to count his money again. Regrettably, Gufei did not miscount earlier. He only had 43 gold coins on him right now. 157 gold coins away from his target of 200 gold coins. "Are you selling any of these items for 1 gold coin?" a voice suddenly asked Gufei as he was counting his money. "Ah, yes." Gufei hurriedly replied as he raised his head to face the customer. "It's you." The 2 said the same thing simultaneously. The person who was asking about the price was actually Vast Lushness. Gufei felt surprised to meet someone he was familiar with in Peddler's Street 2 of all places, while Vast Lushness felt puzzled that the man who had previously helped her out of a difficult situation on the outskirts of Yunjuan City was actually poor. He was an expert who had easily sliced up 6 players. After all, in online MMOs, most experts were wealthy. Although this was not an absolute fact, they at least would not be this poor. Vast Lushness was truly surprised to find Gufei in such a destitute state that he had to sell a whole pile of trashy items for 1 gold coin each. Why is he here selling these trinkets? With how powerful he is, wouldn't it be faster for him to earn money by farming for high-grade items from high-level monsters? The method that Vast Lushness had come up with was truly the most appropriate path to riches that Gufei should have taken. Everything in MMOs was dependent on level. As long as a player was at a high level, he or she would have first-rate farming capabilities when it came to making money. This was especially true if a player was able to farm the highest grade equipment. A player who could do this would be able to conquer the peak of the market. In fact, quite a lot of gaming experts made it rich through this method. Equipment in Parallel World had no level requirement. This design made such a path to riches all the more attractive to everyone. Unfortunately, the players were unable to pull ahead too drastically because leveling was also extremely difficult. Thus, not many people could easily walk this path toward prosperity. As for Gufei, he indeed had the ability to do so and was also capable of beating monsters 20 levels above his. Chapter notes: 1. Farming is a term used for players who, farm or acquire items. This is especially true for gold farmers, currency grinders, and item farmers, who usually auction the items they get for more in-game currency. Chapter 176. A unique and outstanding player. Vast Lushness did not express her puzzlement. The online gaming community was full of outstandingly unique individuals, After all, compared to Ray who had used real-world currency to open a bar in Parallel World, Gu Fei's action was still considered as normal. After feeling surprised at this chance meeting, Gu Fei quickly recovered his businesslike attitude and warmly greeted the customer before him. "Take a look and see if you have anything you want." Vastlushness squatted down and carefully inspected each of the items on display. Gu Fei felt bored as she inspected his wares, so he used his appraisal skill on Vastlushness. She was currently at level 31 with common grade equipment and empty accessory slots. Even an average level 31 player would not be in such a state. Since he knew Vastlushness had once been a level 30 illustrious figure, Gu Fei found this strange. "Why are your equipment slots empty?" Vastlushness, who continued to inspect the items in his stall, lifted her head and looked at him. "I lost it all when I got slain." "How many times have you gotten slain?" Gu Fei curiously asked. "A player would drop a whole level every time he or she died in this game." Killing people until they lost all their equipment was not easy, as they could no longer be bullied into a PvP once they reached level 10. "I've been getting hunted for over a month, so I've already lost count." Vastlushness was truly a tenacious person. She did not count death by the number of times she died but by the number of times she had been hunted to death. "Shouldn't you be at level 10? Gu Fei asked, perplexed. Vastlushness glanced at Gu Fei in surprise. "Levels can be grinded again." "So you grinded your way up, only to be killed by them again?" Gu Fei pressed on. "Should I be afraid of them, instead?" Vastlushness answered him with a question. For a priest to stubbornly struggle under such a situation, Gu Fei could tell how strong-willed she was. Sighing in admiration, he asked her another question. "Are they not chasing you now?" "Not after that time outside Yunjuan City." "Maybe they've gotten lazy, or they are busy with the game's PvP event," Vastlushness replied. "Oh." Gu Fei merely nodded his head. Vastlushness continued to rummage through the equipment as she said, "I've yet to properly thank you for last time." "You've already thanked me," Gu Fei reminded her. Vastlushness had humbly said, thank you," over and over again last time when Gu Fei told her where Silver Moon was, which was a far cry from her tyrannical personality in Y City. "I mean that time by the prison entrance." "I'm grateful that you told me what you had heard," Vastlushness clarified. "It's nothing," Gu Fei said, asking, "Did you manage to meet him?" "No." "No?" Gu Fei was mildly surprised. He did not remember hearing any other ways in and out of the prison besides the main entrance. "I left not too long later after you did," Vastlushness explained. "Oh? The truth is I had a hunch on exactly why he had been avoiding me. And yet I still tried chasing after him just so I could hear it from himself. But then I thought, why should I continue fooling myself if even an outsider like you could tell the truth?" Vastlushness said numbly. Gu Fei did not comment. Out of courtesy to a fellow human being, he told Vastlushness what he had found out inside the prison. As for what she would do next, Gu Fei knew that he had no say in it. While Vastlushness had clearly put all her heart into her and Silvermoon's relationship despite it being just a game, Silvermoon had always carried the mentality that everything here was but a game. "That's why I ought to thank you properly," Vastlushness said. Evidently, her gratefulness to Gu Fei toward this matter was even more sincere than when he had saved her from being killed before. With her not fearing death or getting hunted by men, Vastlushness had only felt superficial gratitude toward Gu Fei for saving her life before, so her thanking him for that was actually just a polite gesture and nothing more. As for the matter with Silver Moon, Vastlushness had truly felt genuine thankfulness for his kind gesture toward her. Gu Fei of course did not feel that his action was very amazing to be worthy of someone's deep gratitude, so he simply said, "Don't worry about that. Let's add each other as friends," Vastlushness suggested. Gu Fei was not bothered by her request in the least. Nodding his head in agreement, he opened up his friends list and allowed her to add him. The system then notified him, "Player Vastlushness has added you as a friend. Once I make it rich, I'll treat you to a round of drinks from your IGN, I'm sure you love to drink," Vastlushness said to Gu Fei while smiling wryly. Even Gu Fei was getting tired of telling others about the origin of his IGN, so he merely said, "No need for that. You said you had seen me in Y City, when was that?" Vastlushness asked. "I used to be Fugitive 27149, Gufei honestly replied. Clank. The emblem that Vast Lushness had just picked up loudly clattered to the ground. She raised her head and fixed Gufei a fierce stare. She had been conversing with him all this while with her eyes on the items he had on display. Before either of them could say another word, a stifled laughter was heard from the player beside them. Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop on you two, the person hurriedly apologized, adding mischievously, pretty lady from Y City, you should know that Yunju City's mages like to fashion themselves as fugitive 27,149 whenever they are chasing skirts. Gufei felt amused by this as he had never heard of it before. And what's the result of their attempts? The person sighed deeply. None has actually succeeded in scoring with ladies. In fact, they all got killed just for claiming that they were that guy. Why's that? Gufei asked. Fugitive 27,149 is an expert. All the pretty ladies want to see what he's made up of. You have to get close to a lady to flirt, right? If someone wants to test your skill as a mage at close range, it's almost the same as you signing up for your own death. The person explained while laughing. Ha 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 ha. How pitiful of them. Gufei laughed as well. Vast Lushness did not join this exchange. She could tell that Gufei was not trying to flirt with her using that silly method and was telling the truth. This meant that he truly was once fugitive 27,149. So how is it? Do you still wanna treat me to a drink? Gufei addressed Vast Lushness once he had his laugh. I've already said it, so it counts. Vast Lushness replied evenly. Gufei merely smiled. But I originally wanted to treat you to some high-quality liquor till you have your fill. Now, I'll only buy you one glass of the most common alcoholic drink available. We'll then consider the matter between us as settled. What do you think? Vast Lushness asked. Forget about the drink, just buy one of my items now. Gufei bargained. Are you really in need of money? Vast Lushness asked, surprised. The cheapest glass of liquor was only at 10 copper coins. She had initially thought that Gufei had set up this stall as a hobby, yet he was actually attempting to earn some money from it. Gufei glumly nodded his head. Why aren't you farming for high-grade equipment, then? Won't it take much longer for you to sell all these junks? Vast Lushness asked. I'm in a hurry and I thought that selling equipment here would be quick. As Gufei said that, he suddenly jumped up and shouted, oh, crap. What's the matter? Vast Lushness asked. Gufei's shout made the surrounding players jump in fright as well. Help me look after this stall, I'll be right back. Gufei quickly hopped out from behind the stall as Vast Lushness received a system message. 1,000 Miles Drunk has set you as the stall owner. While any players could set up a stall whenever they pleased in all the peddlers' streets, the merchants were still under the system's protection. If not, all the peddlers' streets could easily turn into robbers' streets. Where are you off to? Vast Lushness was at a loss. The peace session is about to start, I'll be back soon. Gufei said as he sprinted off. What? Vast Lushness became even more clueless. Gufei hurriedly ran to a safe zone and went offline. He then rushed out of his house and arrived at the school's field. Music played on speaker as the students made their way toward the field. Gufei sighed in relief. At least, he was not late for work. That was right. Although physical education teachers did not have classes in the morning, supervising the students' morning and assembly exercises was still part of their job. Gufei rushed between the two worlds precisely because of the assembly exercise. He entered the game once more after he was done with his duty at school. When he got to Peddler's Street 2, he spotted someone arguing with Vast Lushness by his stall. Why are you selling all these for 1 gold coin? That's quite the loss. Babe, you could sell this ring here for 2 or 3 gold coins. This dagger has decent traits to it, so 5 gold coins should be the right price for it. As for these, the person pointed to a few other items and said, they're not even worth 1 gold coin each. Sigh. Must be tough for you to sell things here. Actually, I happen to need a priest for my level grinding. Babe, how's your skill? Why don't you join me on my level grinding? We can sell some high-grade equipment together after we farm them. I'm now at level 40. With you aiding me as a priest, we shan't have problems fighting monsters 5 levels higher. Since the monsters are 10 levels higher than yours, you'll get lots of experience as well as high-grade equipment. What a great deal it is. So are you in? The person chattered incessantly, looking as if he was trying to abduct a naive and unworldly teenage girl. Vast Lushness was only at level 31 with trashy equipment. Given how she was also currently selling a pile of trashy items at a low price, she completely fit the above descriptions. Unfortunately, the man was dead wrong. After saying so many flowery words, Vast Lushness simply rolled her eyes. "Your tricks won't work on me." The man felt stunned as he realized that his intentions had been seen through. Unexpectedly, he sulkily said, "Looks like Babe isn't a newbie, after all." As Vast Lushness flashed him a cold smile, the man continued, "Then, you should know better that there's no future selling these items, right? Come and grind with me." Seeing how low your level is, you must be lacking the help of an expert during level grinding, right? He suddenly felt a presence behind him as he was trying to convince Vast Lushness. Turning his head backward, he saw Goofy standing behind him. "It's you." Before Goofy could reply, the man was already patting him on the shoulder and saying, "Bro, I saw her first so I got the dibs on her. Don't mess things up for me. Besides, you already had the entire Amethyst rebirth to yourself. Is there a need to busy yourself with more? Anyway, it's first come, first served basis here." Deplorable. He is too damn deplorable. Goofy cried inside him. Chapter 177, The System's Misplaced Money. The man before Goofy was Sakura Zakamuni, the founder of the Forever in Flowers Guild. When it came to men, Sakura Zakamuni was definitely the most detestable sort that he had encountered. What actually angered Goofy more was that this deplorable man looked more innocuous and cuter than Royal God Call. Goofy's presence made Sakura Zakamuni anxious. In his eyes, a man who could mix into a pure women guild like fish in water would be akin to a legendary love god. Such a fierce competitor was something he did not want to face. This was why he had blabbered on upon seeing Goofy. Goofy had yet to say a word, but Sakura Zakamuni's voice already sounded his insecurity and uncertainty. Goofy looked at him, then at Vast Lushness, not knowing what to say. Vast Lushness had been in this situation many times in the past as a beautiful gamer. Standing up, she unperturbedly said to Goofy, "I'm returning the stall to you." With that, he received the system notification for the stall's transfer of ownership. Sakura Zakamuni gawked at the two of them. "You two know each other?" Goofy nodded his head. He was now behind the stall, while Vast Lushness was back on the street. "You're too much. Are you trying to catch all the babes for yourself?" Sakura Zakamuni angrily asked. Goofy lowered his head. He felt that answering this man's question was the same as stooping to his level. "I'm leaving." Vast Lushness had been treating Sakura Zakamuni like her all this while. Waving goodbye to Goofy, she hurriedly left. Sakura Zakamuni immediately chased after her and continued to pester her. "Babe, what's your name?" "My name's Sakura Zakamuni. You can call me Zaki." Goofy hurriedly explained to the merchants on his left and right, "I don't know that guy." "MHM." The two players vaguely acknowledged Goofy's words. They were currently feeling nauseated at the sight unfolding before them. Vast Lushness finally exploded, "You're noisy. Stop following me." A lady experiencing the adoration of a male player would feel honored in other circumstances, but it was a different case altogether if the admirer was someone like Sakura Zakamuni. Sakura Zakamuni remained persistent, though. Few beautiful women played Parallel World, and a natural beauty like Vast Lushness was even harder to find. Thus, Sakura Zakamuni was not planning to give up on wooing her, unless his skull got bashed in beyond recovery. "Where do you want to go, babe?" "I'll accompany you." "You're from Y City, so you must be unfamiliar here." "I'll take you for a tour." "There's a lake with great view on the outskirts of Yunjuan City. Wanna go there and have a look?" Sakura Zakamuni smiled lasciviously. Every player in Yunjuan City knew of what people mainly did over by Yunjiao Lakeside. Scram! Scram! Vast Lushness took out her healing staff and drove Sakura Zakamuni away with it. It seemed that Sakura Zakamuni had the knack for annoying a lady, as he actually drove the priest Vast Lushness into using her staff like a rod to beat him up. He was even cheekily snickering as he dodged her staff. "Where are we going?" "Is it Yunjiao Lakeside?" Vast Lushness went mad at this. She would not even bat an eye when she killed people. Right now, she wished to shred Sakura Zakamuni into pieces. But she was a priest, so she would not be able to kill him even if her level was the same as him. "Just kill me already." She screamed in frustration instead as she waved her staff viciously. "Why would I do that? I wanna protect you. It's quite dangerous for a priest like you to roam Yunjuan City alone. After all, there are many bad men, especially lewd ones, around here." Sakurazaka Muni clearly did not intend to retaliate at her, yet he was so brazen that everyone was sweating in anxiety. Vastlushness tried to flee, but Sakurazaka Muni caught up to her with his faster speed than Gufei's. "Shall I take your hand? You can move faster that way." Vastlushness chose to ignore him. Her eyes stared fixedly ahead as if she was on her own. Sakurazaka Muni was unfazed by this and continued to walk beside her. "Bro, you're so persistent." Someone sighed in admiration to Sakurazaka Muni. Sakurazaka Muni smiled as he stopped walking and said loudly, "Never take no for an answer. Never give up." He then hurried forward, leaving a very flabbergasted crowd behind. Gufei was the most stunned among all these people as he personally knew the two. Vastlushness was a very vicious player, yet her non-combat job class prevented her from duking it out with Sakurazaka Muni. As for Sakurazaka Muni, he would never kill a lady even with Vastlushness' personality. His audacious declaration just now was a testament to how thick-skinned he was. "Vastlushness, you've finally met your match today," Gufei sighed to himself, unsure if this meeting was a blessing or a curse. It was definitely a curse for Gufei, as Sakurazaka Muni had virtually disrupted his business. Vastlushness would have bought 4 to 5 pieces of equipment from Gufei had she not been chased off by that detestable man. "That scoundrel," Gufei muttered to himself. Taking out his coin purse, he counted his money once more. Counting money again and again was a common act to everyone when he or she wished for the money to magically increase in quantity. Naturally, that was something that would never come true. Nothing had changed, as his coin purse still contained only 43 gold coins. Sigh. Gufei dejectedly exhaled as he reached into his dimensional pocket, trying to search for some loose coins. This search actually caused him to freeze up. When his hand came out of his dimensional pocket, Gufei was holding a dark red coin purse. The person who had designed Parallel World's dimensional pocket must be a fan of Da'erman. When players reached into their dimensional pockets, they could only rely on their sense of touch. Fortunately, the items could be sorted into slots inside the dimensional pocket. As long as the players arranged their items properly, they could reach into the designated spots and retrieve the items they needed. Few items were stored inside the players' dimensional pockets in the early stages of the game, so taking out items was easy for them. But as days went by, the dimensional pockets began to fill up and the players would now often make mistakes when taking out things. Situations where a player pulled out a loaf of bread instead of a sword happened quite often, resulting into much laughter. Thus, many players made it a habit to properly arrange the items inside their dimensional pockets and practice the art of quickly pulling out weapons or items. Gufei was already an expert when it came to taking out items from his dimensional pocket without taking out the wrong items. But the thing was, he was so used to using the same few slots that he never realized another coin purse had somehow appeared inside one of the slots that he seldom placed items into. He could not make sense of how he had acquired this coin purse. Gufei had never counted his money until today, so he had never been fully aware of all his assets. He would only grab out his coin purse from its designated slot when he had something to pay. The coin purse in-game worked exactly like a safety deposit box. As long as the coin purse contained money, his hand would always grab something when he reached inside it. Gufei did just that and managed to grab quite a lot inside his deep red coin purse. His eyes widened as the count increased to a total of 429 gold coins. The large amount of gold coins allowed Gufei to remember where he had acquired it. It was his previous winnings from inside the prison. Gufei had won this large sum from playing dice with Silver Moon and his accomplices while serving time inside the prison. He did not know why the system had seen it fit to store these coins in a separate money pouch, but it had caused him to miss them entirely. Misplacing money was a good habit that would create sudden surprise. Gufei elatedly thought that the system was so nice to have done this for him. Now that Gufei was rich again, He no longer had to stick to this merchant life. Selling the pile of items to the player beside him for 20 gold coins, he walked off with his hands folded behind his head. He went back to the Mage Academy and paid the job class advancement fee of 200 gold coins. The NPC instructor beamingly told Gufei that he could now choose between Water Affinity Initiation or Lightning Affinity Initiation. Since this was a huge decision, the system responsibly handed over a spell guidebook to Gufei. This guidebook went into detail about water affinity and lightning affinity and reminded the mage how important his or her choice was. Gufei had already decided to choose water affinity initiation. He cared not for the differences between the two affinities, as he only wanted the freezing effect that water mages could induce. Gufei casually flipped through the guidebook for a while. Just as he was about to begin his initiation, he heard someone from behind call out to him, "Oh, it's you. Long time no see." Gufei turned his head and looked. It was Fleeting Smile. This person's name had indeed not been online for quite some time. He thought that Fleeting Smile had finished his testing of the game and had thus decided to not play it anymore. Gufei felt quite sad to have lost his walking encyclopedia. Meeting each other after a long time, the first thing Gufei did was used his appraisal skill on Fleeting Smile. The latter was only at level 32. It seemed that he had really stopped playing the game for quite some time, as the equipment he had on was very common. Had Gufei not hawked off that pile of trashy gear just then, quite a few items would still have been of use to Fleeting Smile. Long time no see. Gufei replied. I've been really busy, so I didn't have time to play. Fleeting Smile sighed. Any insider info? Gufei casually asked. I'm a scrub. Okay, I got it. Although it had been a while since they had last met, Gufei still remembered the line that this guy had always been using. Fleeting Smile spied the spell guidebook in Gufei's hands and smiled. Oh, you're about to do your job class advancement? Gufei nodded his head. Which affinity are you choosing? Fleeting Smile asked. Water affinity, Gufei answered. Fleeting Smile furrowed his brows. Based on the data they had collected, around 80% of the mages that had done their job class advancement chose to be water mages. While this did not affect the game company's profit, the matter still hurt the game designer's pride. Since they had painstakingly designed a full system of skills and effects for a lightning mage, the majority of mages' act of choosing water affinity seemed to signify their rejection of the game designer's other creation. Fleeting Smile believed that neither of the two job class advancement choices for mages held any sort of advantage over the other. While the water mage's freezing effect could slow its target's speed, the lightning mage's paralyzing effect could prevent its targets from using their skills. Furthermore, the mages with lightning affinity had fast spellcasting time and high magic attack power. At this point, Fleeting Smile was feeling quite indignant for the lightning affinity, so all he thought about was the pros of it. Seeing that Gufei was about to join the army of water mages, he could not help but say, "Why are you choosing the water affinity? Lightning affinity is equally strong, too." Chapter 178, The Birth of the Lightning Mage. Gufei asked wryly, "Is that so? It's true that he is an employee of the gaming company, but surely he can't just magically turn a lightning mage into one that has freezing effect, right?" Besides that effect, Gufei wanted nothing else. "Why do you want to choose water affinity?" Fleeting Smile asked, wanting to understand the player's fundamental thought. "Freezing effect," Gufei replied. This. Fleeting Smile was at a loss for words. If that was really the reason, then he could do nothing about it. This effect was the specialty of water affinity. After all, Fleeting Smile would be shooting himself on the foot if he said that water affinity's freezing effect could not compare to lightning affinity's paralyzing effect, as they were the ones who had created the two affinities systems. Right now, he could only emphasize on lightning affinity's positive aspects. Many players had not chosen lightning affinity because they had not discovered its advantages. A player won't be able to use skills when under the paralyzing effect. Someone who has no access to his or her skills is as dangerous as a monster that is drawn on paper. You've been playing Parallel World longer than I have, so you should understand what I mean. Lightning affinity has many instant cast spells, too. If you're able to use those spells well, you won't have to allocate many points toward spirit and can pump them all into intelligence if you prefer. Adding the lightning affinity's high damage output, the attack you dish out will be very frightening. Fleeting Smile was alarmed as he finished saying this, as he felt that the reasons he had just given might not sound attracting to Gufei, the full agility mage. He has a full agility build, so it's practically useless to tell him how intelligence or spirit could affect his abilities. What Fleeting Smile did not realize was that something he had said actually moved Gufei. Instant cast spells. This was something tempting to Gufei. Among his fire affinity spells, only Twin Incineration was an instant cast spell. Gufei preferred using it precisely because he could easily mix it into his kung fu. Evidently, that was the advantage of instant cast spells to him. Thinking about it more, Gufei's Twin Incineration actually already had a high magic attack power to complement his sword style. Was there a need to acquire more instant cast spells? He merely wanted to use his kung fu, so what was the point of getting all those instant cast spells if he could not slow his enemies down with the freezing effect of a water mage? As Gufei pondered on this, Fleeting Smile continued to promote the wonders of lightning affinity. Gufei took the chance when Fleeting Smile was taking a breath to ask, "Does lightning affinity have the freezing effect?" Feeling annoyed at having wasted his breath to explain lightning affinity's advantages to Gufei, Fleeting Smile remarked, "If it is just the freezing effect, plenty of weapons out there have that as an effect. As for the paralyzing effect of lightning affinity, it is rarely found in weapons." While his argument made sense, it was not applicable to a mage. In Parallel World, a player needed to directly hit his or her opponent with a weapon to activate its effect. As for a mage, casting a spell did not require him or her to make contact with the target. Was there even a mage out there who would use his or her magic stave to whack people directly? However, this warped logic that was not applicable to most mages highly fit Gufei's fighting style. He was once more moved by Fleeting Smile's argument. Yet doubts quickly surfaced on his mind again. Why would I need to use a weapon with freezing effect if I have access to the freezing spells as a water mage? That would just be me doing something unnecessary. Fleeting Smile patiently reasoned, "I'm only worried that you're choosing water affinity solely for its freezing effect, resulting in much regret in the future. Lightning affinity is really awesome, too. I say, isn't it unfair for a scrupulous gaming employee to guide players in their decision making?" Gufei asked. Fleeting Smile obviously wanted to convince Gufei toward choosing lightning affinity. Preposterous. Fleeting Smile hurriedly refuted, saying, "It's just that so many mages don't seem to have insight on the advantages that lightning affinity provides, which is why I'm elaborating so much here. I just hope that a certain someone would make a sound decision. I just don't want players regretting their decisions later. So what are the advantages of lightning affinity? Weren't you listening to me all this while?" Fleeting Smile asked, irked. "Actually, I only need water affinity's freezing effect to reduce my opponent's fast speed. That way, I can easily chase after them," Gufei explained. "Easily chase after the enemies?" Fleeting Smile was shocked, but lightning affinity is more suitable for that. "Why?" "Because lightning affinity has the blink skill." Fleeting Smile revealed. "Blink?" Gufei was in a daze. Blink was a skill that the mage job class would have in most games, except its name varied from game to game. Some MMOs called the skill spiritual teleportation or other similar sounding names, yet its effect remained the same. It allowed the user to move from one place to another at a certain distance instantly. Gufei had little experience playing other MMOs, so he did not know of this. Flipping through his spell guidebook to get a basic idea of the skill, he asked, "What does it do?" "It allows a mage to move from one place to another instantly." The skill is part of lightning affinity in Parallel World. It's not indicated in the official skill tree, though, Fleeting Smile explained. Move instantly. Gufei was no longer just feeling moved by Fleeting Smile's speech. Having fast movement speed was nothing compared to being able to move instantly. After all, what level will this skill be available? Gufei asked. He could barely wait to try it out. It's quite a late game skill, but it can be learned through skill scrolls," Fleeting Smile answered. "Lightning affinity, it is." Gufei resolved. That? Fleeting Smile still wanted to add more, yet Gufei already had electricity crackling all over himself. Clearly, He had already begun the process for lightning affinity initiation. It was too late to regret anything at this point, as the process of advancing the job class could not be stopped by simply pressing the stop button. Congratulations player 1000 miles drunk for your successful job class advancement to a lightning mage. Your magic has already integrated the properties of lightning. Gufei was notified by the system of this after a short while. At the same time, he had acquired his first spell as a lightning mage. Thunderbolt effect, can strike a target with heavenly lightning. Incantation, Thunderbolt, strike. Gufei was quite speechless, asking Fleeting Smile, when you said lightning mages' spells are faster to cast, did you mean that their incantations are shorter? The most basic mage spell, Fireball, was the only other incantation with 2 words. To think that level 40 lightning mage spell would also be a 2-word incantation. Somehow, the amount of words in an incantation seemed to determine the casting speed of a spell. In fact, many mages had practiced hard to ensure that their pronunciation of such incantations would be clear and concise. Of course, not casting spell is really faster as a lightning mage. You'll understand this once you cast a spell, Fleeting Smile vehemently denied. Okay. Gufei nodded his head in satisfaction. He liked fast. Anything else that you would like to add about lightning affinity? Gufei asked Fleeting Smile. He remembered that Fleeting Smile seemed to be about to say something regarding lightning affinity while he was undergoing the initiation for it. Fleeting Smile's heart thumped fast when he saw how lively Gufei was being. Have I unintentionally done something inappropriate again? I somehow want to establish a cordial relationship with him, yet I have ended up giving him a huge helping hand. Have I actually helped him become more formidable? Gufei, who had brought his full set of kung fu skills into Parallel World, indeed broke the game's framework in a way. Despite being a mage, he was closer to possessing a melee job class. Blink was originally a spell intended to let a mage escape pursuit or distance himself or herself from the enemy. With Gufei likely acquiring it in the future, some sort of cataclysmic event might result from this foreseeable unholy matrimony. Fleeting Smile had indeed unintentionally led Gufei onto an even brighter future. Oh, yeah, I have something I've been wanting to ask you, Gufei quipped when he noticed Fleeting Smile remaining quiet for quite a while. What is it? The energy Fleeting Smile had shown when enticing Gufei to take lightning affinity was now gone, and on its place was listlessness. Take a look. Gufei took out Moonlit Nightfalls and passed it over to Fleeting Smile. The muscles on Fleeting Smile's face twitched. His wish to ban Gufei from the game was being strongly tested right now. How could the other players on his same level compete against him when he possesses this weapon that is leagues beyond others? However, Gufei did not know of Fleeting Smile's current state of mind and merely asked, "This sword is called Moonlit Nightfalls. Can you see its traits?" "No need. I know about it," Fleeting Smile replied. Some pieces of the top-grade equipment found in-game were the proud creations of them, and Moonlit Nightfalls was among those. Fleeting Smile knew very well the sword's traits and value without looking at it. This sword has a skill called Impending Nightfall that I haven't been able to meet the conditions for use even now. What exactly are these conditions? Gufei asked. You naturally won't be able to meet the conditions for it, since you've not even fulfilled the equipment requirement, Fleeting Smile replied. Is that so? Gufei felt a little disappointed. He would have tried finding a way around this restriction if there had been a workable method. In the end, it was because he failed to meet the equipment requirement to utilize the sword's full potential. Reaching Moonlit Nightfall's sword aptitude and spell aptitude requirements was necessary to unlocking the sword's full potential. Gufei had been depending on his Midnight Spirit robe to somehow meet the spell aptitude requirement. Yet his sword aptitude still had a long way to go. According to the current player's experimentations, adding points towards strength could increase one's sword aptitude. Gufei's agility had yet to reach a level he was content to fault with, so he did not plan to allocate his points towards strength at present. Besides, he was only curious of Moonlit Nightfall's skill and was not in a rush to acquire it. When it came to a PvP, Gufei still mainly relied on his kung fu skills. In fact, Gufei found insta-killing a whole swath of enemies with Blazing 3 of 1000 Inferno as insipid despite others deeming it as something amazing and op. Thus, Gufei had nothing else to add once he heard Fleeting Smile's reply. This ensuing silence instantly made Fleeting Smile feel depressed. He had just decided to no longer help Gufei out, so he had been planning to coldly reply at him if he asked for information about aptitude. Who would have guessed that Gufei would not bother to pry any further or ask another question? Just as Fleeting Smile was about to say something, Gufei waved his hand to him and said, "Carry on with what you need to do, then I'm logging off." In a flash of white light, Gufei had disappeared. AHHH. Fleeting Smile felt so dismayed by Gufei's anticlimactic response that he really wanted to give himself a good stab with a knife. Chapter 179, Fauherdor's offensive maneuvers. Matters related to Gufei continued to happen in-game as he went offline. Even after Brave Surge was sent to prison by Gufei, he did not change his mind about recruiting the latter. Since imprisonment in Parallel World meant total isolation, he was temporarily unable to contact any of his people. Fortunately, Brave Surge was quick-witted enough to go offline. In reality, he was able to contact his buddies that had witnessed his PvP with Gufei. Brave Surge felt gratified when he learned that his companions had asked for Gufei's IGN. He then instructed them to wait for his release from prison before telling their other comrades of this information. His PvP with Gufei only reinforced his desire to recruit the latter and began to think of ways to entice Gufei into his guild while serving time in prison. Meanwhile, Fauherder, the guild leader of Cloud Herder, remained oblivious to the fact that he had just missed out on meeting Gufei by clearing off all his park points. He only went online in the late afternoon after he had fully rested in reality. At this time of the day, the scenery in-game was vastly different from when it was the wee hours in the morning or the dead of night. When Fauherder got online, he promptly received a message from his female spies. All their applications to join Amethyst Rebirth had been rejected. Apparently, people could only join Amethyst Rebirth with the referral of someone already in the guild, and any players randomly asking to join it would be rejected. Fauherder felt stunned. Among the many criteria that the different guilds had set up before they would accept someone as their own, Amethyst Rebirth's criterion was actually the most difficult. This sort of guild would never be huge and would not have any big goals, but its members would always have excellent relationship with one another. Infiltrating such a guild was possible, but it would take time. After all, one would need to befriend and gain the trust of certain members of Amethyst Rebirth before having the chance to join the guild. He was unsure of how long that would take, so Fauherder decisively cancelled the plan to infiltrate Amethyst Rebirth and prepared to use the currency ploy he had prepared instead. Opening up his friends list, he saw that Brave Surge was currently offline. I wonder how things are on his end, Fauherder thought to himself. He tried sending him a message, yet he only got this notification from the system: player Brave Surge is not in a serviceable area. From experience, Fauherder immediately deduced what this message meant, and his heart was filled with elation. Brave Surge must have been sent to prison. It seemed that he had luckily obtained a head start in their headhunting war. As such, Fauherder became calmer and grew more confident in assigning the online members a task each relating to the matter at hand. He then confidently headed toward one of the city gates. It was at this moment that his system notification sounded for a new mail. Have you managed to acquire more information regarding that particular someone? Feel free to send me a message anytime if you need anything. Fauherder saw that the short message was sent not too long after he had logged off. The sender's name was Zyzeoshin. There was even an emoticon beaming brightly at him right next to the sender's name. It's her. Looking at the emoticon, he immediately recalled the beautiful lady who had offered to provide him and Brave Surge information about the Mage for the price of 1,000 gold coins. He laughed coldly and casually deleted the message. 1,000 gold coins? Why don't you steal that amount of money instead? I doubt that I won't be able to tempt any of the Amethyst Rebirth's ladies into opening their mouths at a lower price. Fauherder was confident in the currency ploy he had in motion. Shortly afterward, members of Cloud Herder Guild could be seen all over Yunjuan City. While they did not know Gufei's appearance, they were still familiar with the appearances of a few ladies of Amethyst Rebirth. It was an all-female guild after all, So most people would of course pay attention to those who belong to that guild, not to mention that Cloud Herder had just clashed with Amethyst Rebirth during the guild versus guild tournament yesterday. The Cloud Herders players only failed to find any of the ladies last night because they went offline after the match. Now that daytime had arrived, it did not take long for Faux Herder to receive a few reports of the locations of several Amethyst Rebirth ladies. Just keep an eye on the ladies. I'll interact with each of them personally, Faux Herder commanded. The closest targets were currently on their way toward Faux Herder's location at the city's east gate, so he hurriedly adjusted his armor and struck a dashing pose. In no time at all, 4 ladies of Amethyst Rebirth entered his line of sight. A thief on stealth of Cloud Herder was following the ladies not too far behind. Naturally, Faux Herder could not see this thief and only received a message from him: "The 4 ladies have arrived." Faux Herder waited until the 4 ladies were closer to him before clearing his throat. "Ladies." The 4 ladies halted their footsteps as they turned their heads to his direction. Faux Herder amiably smiled at them. "I'd like to find out something from you." "What is it?" the ladies genially asked. "Are you members of Amethyst Rebirth?" The 4 ladies nodded their heads. "Does your guild have a male player?" he asked while feigning ignorance. The 4 ladies nodded their heads once more. "What is his name?" Faux Herder tried his best to pretend that his question was random. Last night's plan was to directly ask the Amethyst Rebirth's ladies first, and for the currency ploy to only be enacted next if directly questioning the ladies proved to be futile. The 4 ladies immediately became alert. "Who are you?" Their alertness was something that they had cultivated over time due to the male players approaching them to ask for their fellow female guildmates' names. None of the ladies wanted to be pestered by random individuals, so they would never give their fellow guildmates names to suspicious players. Despite Goofy being a male player, the ladies already had the habit of probing for the asker's intention first before giving out anything. "I'm Faux Herder," Faux Herder replied. Just the name of the warrior ranked 6th on the leaderboard would garner quite the attention of players even in other in-game cities, yet the 4 ladies who were from the same city as him merely looked at one another in confusion. "Who is he?" "I'm the guild leader of Cloud Herder." "We fought with you girls yesterday," Faux Herder informed them, feeling depressed. Not recognizing him at a glance was fine, yet for the ladies to actually not even know his name, was he that unremarkable of a player? "Oh, you're from that silly guild with 500 men that only sent out 50 men for the guild versus guild tournament, right?" one of the ladies asked. "Hey, don't say such things," another lady admonished her as she surreptitiously glanced at Faux Herder. He felt so embarrassed, but since it was the truth, he could not retort back. As for the move being silly, since Cloud Herder lost the match, what else could it be? Faux Herder coughed and tried to change the subject. "I wanna ask the name of your guild's male mage." "Ah, I remember you," another lady suddenly cried out, adding, "You asked us the same question after we finished our fight yesterday." Faux Herder nodded his head. "Yes. Sis Xiao said to not tell you of our male player's name." "Scram! We're leaving." The 4 ladies then hurried off. "Ah!" Faux Herder's hand was already reaching into his dimensional pocket for his money pouch to begin his currency ploy, but he ended up staying quiet as he released his hold of the coin purse. Faux Herder refrained from using that ploy, as he realized that there were 4 ladies present. If he were to tempt them with money, he would have to satisfy all 4. The 4 together would turn the 100 gold coins into 25 gold coins each. If one of them asked for 100 gold coins, he would likely have to pay each of them that much. Why be hung up on this one group? With that thought in mind, Faux Herder asked for the location of the next target. "One lady is here at Peddler's Street 3. She has a stall set up," someone reported to Faux Herder. Quickly making his way over to Peddler's Street 3, Faux Herder was then approached by his guild member stationed there and was directed to where the stall was. Faux Herder gave the lady a once-over. She was a fighter. Her hands were hugging her knees as she squatted on the ground. The stall before her had many useless items, yet she eagerly awaited the customers to arrive. "Seems like someone who is in need of money," Faux Herder smilingly said as he confidently walked toward the direction of her stall and was about to carry out his ploy. A few minutes later, a commotion suddenly brewed in Peddler's Street 3 and Faux Herder could be seen squeezing his way out of the crowd with his hands covering the back of his head for protection. Several items sailed through the air and bounced off of his armor, as the female fighter waved her fists and loudly cursed him, "Trying to poach our guild member? You even dare to bribe me with gold coins. You better run, you scoundrel." Phil Herder fled from Peddlers Street 3 with a flustered look on his face. The Cloud Herders member that was responsible for tailing this target also ran out, fixing Phil Herder a confused gaze. "Guild leader, why did you flee from her? Many people are nearby, so doing this sort of thing here is difficult." Phil Herder replied as he sweated. The lady got angry once he revealed his intention to bribe her. Getting shouted at in one of the busiest streets in Yunjuan City for trying to bribe a lady, he could not help but feel immense shame and anger. Peddlers streets and taverns, let's avoid those places with many eyewitnesses, Phil Herder announced on the guild channel after this incident. "There ain't many people here." Someone immediately suggested a target in one of the less traveled by streets of Yunjuan City. Phil Herder rushed over there while asking, "What is she doing there?" "Seems like she's repeating a quest," the member reported. "What quest is there in that place?" Phil Herder asked, perplexed. "I don't know." The member was equally clueless on this front. Could it be a hidden quest? "She has been repeating this quest here for quite some time now." "Is that so?" Phil Herder excitedly hurried over to the said street. Two guild members showed their heads from the corner of a wall upon his arrival and pointed toward a certain direction. "We've been counting and she'll be in that spot once every 7 minutes. It's been 6 minutes since she last showed herself, so she should be here soon." Just as they said this, a lady appeared at the opposite end of the street and noisily made her way toward the location that the two men had just indicated. "I'm going." Seeing that the lady was a fellow warrior, Phil Herder immediately felt a sense of closeness toward her. He arranged his armor presentably and noisily made his way toward the location as well. Chapter 180, The Wheat Within the Mud. Phil Herder steadily walked forward as his head became filled with covetous thoughts. The covetous thoughts were not about the lady but the quest that she was doing. "Is there really a quest here?" Phil Herder had not heard anything about this before. "We are both warriors, so this quest might be beneficial to me as well," he continued to ponder on inside. Phil Herder felt that he should try to find out more about the quest here first. While successfully poaching Goofy would bolster his guild, successfully obtaining an important quest would bolster himself. The choices were either to let his guild bask in potential glory or to let himself enjoy the limelight. Phil Herder did not even hesitate to choose the latter. Ahem! He coughed to get the lady's attention when he got near her. "Babe, what are you doing here?" "Quest," the lady replied. With people being bolder inside a game, male players striking up a conversation with female players was actually a common occurrence, so most ladies were already used to such a situation. "Oh, what quest is this?" Phil Herder continued to ask nonchalantly. "It's called The Wheat Within the Mud," the lady honestly replied. Every quest had a unique name, and Phil Herder had never heard of such a quest before this lady mentioned it to him. Although the quest's name sounded very plain, determining a quest's quality by its name alone would be very foolish. It was like judging a book solely by its cover. Phil Herder excitedly and carefully asked, "How did you obtain it?" "Just talk to the NPC here," the lady answered as she began to knock on the door before her. A hunchbacked old man, with eyes reflecting his years of accumulated experience, opened the door. The sight of the elderly man caused Phil Herder to feel emotional. Old men would often leave behind a valuable inheritance. The game designers seemed to agree with this train of thought as they would often create mysterious old men that would hand out certain secret quests. With the old man being hidden in such a secluded part of the city, it gave off the vibe that this was a hidden quest that would only get triggered when the players coincidentally knocked on his door. "Young one, do me a favor. I've scattered some wheat over by the marketplace. Can you please help me find it? Remember, you must find the wheat within 5 minutes, otherwise, it will be taken by someone else," was what the old man said as he handed the quest to the lady warrior. The lady swiftly left after this. Phil Herder wanted to approach the old man next, yet the old codger completely ignored him and merely closed the door. Phil Herder hurriedly knocked on that door, worried that the quest would no longer be available since the lady had already gotten a hold of it. The door opened and the old man appeared once more, gazing at Phil Herder and repeating his instruction to the lady before. Phil Herder promptly agreed to his request and the quest "Wheat Within the Mud" appeared on his quest log. Nothing out of the ordinary could be gleaned from the quest description, which made Faux Herder quite suspicious of it as he headed to the marketplace. The marketplace that the NPC was talking about was not one of the peddlers' streets that the players had established. Rather, it was the system-created marketplace where the NPC and player merchants gathered to sell products that the system had provided. The street was not as crowded or as boisterous as peddlers' streets, but quite a lot of players were still passing through it. Faux Herder searched the entire marketplace, yet he still came up with nothing. Could it be that the lady has already picked up all the wheat, which resulted into me being unable to find any? Faux Herder saw the lady leave just as he arrived at the marketplace. Very soon, Faux Herder's 5-minute deadline was up. A system prompt rang out and the quest was tagged as failure. This quest isn't easy. Faux Herder was visibly moved by this. At this moment in time, he saw the lady appear in the marketplace once more. When she caught sight of Faux Herder, she smiled. "Did you grab the quest, too?" Faux Herder nodded his head. "Did you manage to find the wheat, then?" Faux Herder shook his head. He. A strange smile appeared on the lady's face as she unhurriedly told him, "Gotta use your head a bit more." Faux Herder tried to carefully decipher what the lady meant, yet he was still at a loss. A minute later, the lady asked him, "Have you gotten it?" Faux Herder shook his head to demonstrate his cluelessness. He. "What's the name of the quest?" the lady asked. "Wheat within the mud," Faux Herder answered. "Correct." The lady congratulated him, yet Faux Herder could still not make sense of it. "That means that the wheat can be found inside the mud," the lady explained in a voice that sounded as if she was saying something very obvious. "Eh?" Faux Herder exclaimed, stunned. "Take a look," the lady said as she walked to a corner where a ragged piece of cloth could be seen on top of a pile of mud. Exerting force on it, she pulled out the small bag from within. "This is the wheat from within the mud." "Good luck," the lady happily exclaimed to Faux Herder before leaving once more. Faux Herder was dumbfounded. He realized that he had made a simple problem complex by overthinking things. This was basically a beginner quest that required players to find an item. This sort of quests that had items hidden in random places was often criticized by the players. And yet, the lady kept on repeating this quest. What would be the point in doing so if it truly was just a simple quest? Faux Herder believed that there must be something to this, so he once more went to the old codger to retry the quest. He might know how to achieve the goal now, but finding a ragged piece of cloth that indicated the presence of the wheat was not easy, causing him to fail the quest once more. Before long, Faux Herder had repeated the quest 7 times. Rummaging through every inch of the mud in the whole marketplace, he finally managed to accomplish the quest in the allocated 5 minutes. Faux Herder excitedly bellowed as he rushed back to where he had gotten the quest and handed the small bag of wheat to the old man. "Thank you, young man. Your help has been invaluable," the old man said as he handed the quest reward over. Faux Herder took it and gave it a look. 10 silver coins. "What the?" Faux Herder mumbled to himself. He did all that just for this measly reward? Faux Herder felt indignant. If it was just this pittance, why would the lady do the quest repeatedly? Faux Herder looked around and realized that the lady was no longer around, so he quickly messaged the members in charge of tailing her. The members were even more at a loss as they asked, "Boss, didn't you already make contact with her?" That. Faux Herder found it really awkward to admit that he had placed his personal interest above the guild's future. They had actually lost sight of the target on their 3rd attempt. At the same time, Faux Herder remained deeply skeptical about what had happened. It's such a simple quest, why did she have to repeat it so many times? This question floated in Faux Herder's mind. Sadly, the 2 members had not kept watch over the situation, otherwise, they would have enlightened him. "Guild leader, you have repeated the same quest 7 times as well." However, the real task at hand still had to be done. Someone reported seeing a lady of Amethyst Rebirth window shopping over by the trade exchange by herself. Faux Herder immediately headed over once he got this news. He stepped into the trade exchange platform for about 5 seconds before leaving. As the 2 members guarding the entrance felt perplexed, Faux Herder angrily chided, "Trying to bribe Svelte Dancer? Are you 2 brainless dolts?" Failure. Faux Herder's monetary assault had been met with failure in the end, and it was an absolutely overwhelming defeat, too. Faux Herder recalled what a certain lady had spat out at him. "HMPH. Getting someone's name from us isn't a big deal, but for you to actually attempt bribing us, What sort of people do you take us for? Fauherdor was devastated. Had he found the lady from the start, he would not have to spend a cent to get the mage's name. Now that it had gotten to this point, he had ended up pissing off every Amethyst Rebirth's lady to the point that they refused to reveal the op mage's IGN. Fauherder and his guild were now viewed with utmost contempt by the ladies. Moreover, he was unaware of something that would figuratively leave him in tears. Gouffet had also logged into the game that afternoon. Seeing the many little posters all over the city looking for him and feeling sympathetic at the colossal effort that those people had expended to find him, Gouffet decided to get in touch with them. But due to Fauherder's deplorable actions, the ladies indirectly convinced Gouffet to do otherwise. HMPH. Did he think he can do whatever he wants by just offering money as compensation? Was spat out by the #1 pay-to-win player's felt dancer, which made the statement more impactful despite its irony. If even she thought of it this way, this meant that Fauherder was indeed a dastardly individual. Money is not everything. All the ladies cried out in unison, as they began to digress from the topic at hand. Just what are you all talking about? Gouffet, who had been dragged into the discussion after getting online, perplexedly asked. As the de facto spokesperson of the guild, July explained the general situation to him. Quite a lot of guilds out there are trying to recruit you. Do give us a heads up if you plan to leave the guild. She would always pick up this professional tone whenever she spoke for the guild. Although July approved of Gouffet's presence in Amethyst Rebirth and did not wish to see him leave, she nevertheless showed an attitude that respected his wishes. A guild where every member was happy was July's biggest aspiration. If someone felt happier elsewhere, July would not stop him or her from leaving. She had previously asked Gouffet to stay in the guild for a while since his departure would have disbanded the guild. Unknowingly, Amethyst Rebirth had gained a lot from his existence in it, especially in that incident with No Smile. I do hope that he would not leave, was July's thought deep down.